Hey, good morning. It's Mark here with another morning rant. It is probably can't see that, but it's 3:53. I don't know if you can see that, but yeah, that's what time it is. So I've been up for a minute. Dr. Ben Carson, former Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD, former brain surgeon, I think. He wrote an opinion 5 days ago. I'm going to show it to you right here. Well, give me a second. There you go. So yeah, Dr. Ben Carson, he wrote this. Black History Month is about more than just Black Americans. Okay. It's not. Black History Month is about Black history. It's about Black history. It's not about President LBJ, who helped push the 1964 and 1965 Voting Rights Bill and Civil Rights Bill. It's not about him. It's about Dr. Martin Luther King, who helped lead peaceful protests throughout this country in order to get Johnson to move on these two bills. It's not about Lyndon Baines Johnson nominating the first Black person to the Supreme Court, Thurgood Marshall. It's about Thurgood Marshall being nominated as the first Black person to be nominated and appointed to the Supreme Court after he fought for equality with the Brown v. the Board of Education and things like that, and working with the NAACP. It's not about Abraham Lincoln and him signing the Declaration of Independence and trying to free slaves with the 13th Amendment. It's about the people. It's about the Black people that fought and died in the pursuit of that. No one is knocking the white experience. No, all we're trying to do, all Dr. Carter G. Woodson tried to do back in the 1960s or 70s, I believe, Dr. Carter G. Woodson started Black History Week in February. And one of the reasons why he started Black History in February was because a lot of Black people were born in February, and a lot of positive things that happened in Black history happened in February. So he founded Black History Week, and then it got expanded to Black History Month. So it's not that the white man gave us 28 days. No, Dr. Carter G. Woodson saw that a lot of history for Black Americans happened in February. So let me just go into this thing real quick. I can scroll up and down on this thing, but my internet's been acting kind of crazy. So I'm just gonna read this. Black History Month is upon us. Some will attempt to use it. Let me move this over a little bit. Some will attempt to use it as a tool to push divisive agendas such as critical race theory or Black Lives Matter. Nobody's trying to push that. This is the problem that I have. Critical race theory is not what the conservative people think it is. This is so freaking stupid. They have told you what critical race theory was. They have shown to you what critical race theory is. Nobody at the elementary, middle school, or high school level is teaching critical race theory. Nobody in college is teaching critical race theory. It happens at the graduate level in a law school. Everybody. So anyway, and nobody's preaching Black Lives Matter. Well, I take that back. We are preaching Black Lives Matter because it's Black History Month. Black History Month was founded to let people know that Black lives do matter. That Black inventors matter. So anyway, because why? Why do we do this? Because all freaking year we learn about white history. All freaking year we learn about American history, but nobody puts in Black people. Let's keep going. But we must avoid such ideologies and remain focused on what unites us as a nation, regardless of our race. Indeed, it is wrong to assume that black history must only involve black Americans. It is not wrong. It is not wrong to assume that black history must only involve black Americans. It is not wrong. It is not wrong because black history is exactly what it is. Throughout the year, we learn about the American Revolutionary War. We learn about the invention of the cotton gin. We learn about World War II. We learned about the Gilded Age. We learned about the era of good feelings. We learned about all this stuff. Now, one time do you see in a history book where they put something in there, or maybe they do. They put maybe a small snippet on Harriet Tubman or Sojourner Truth, or they put small stuff in there, Booker T. Washington, and they put nothing in there about Marcus Garvey. They put a small snippet about Dr. King and a small snippet about Malcolm X. And those are just the famous ones. Nobody talks about Madam C.J. Walker or the guy that invented the stoplight or the guy that invented the filament in the light bulb to get Thomas Edison's light bulb to work. Nobody talks about this stuff. Nobody talks about the black guy that invented the super soaker. Nobody talks about the black woman, I believe, black woman that invented the cell phone, or the components to the cell phone. Nobody discussed this stuff. He keeps going. Every moment of our greatness in our history belongs to all Americans, because the fruits of those triumphs have blessed us all. This applies to Washington crossing the Delaware, to the Constitutional Convention, and other events not typically acknowledged as black history. These all belong to the black story as well. For the most part, they don't. For the most part, Washington crossing the Delaware does not help black history, because Washington at that time had about 150 slaves? George Washington was upset, and that's in one of these books up here, if I can see it. George Washington was upset that his stuff was coming back from England not the way he paid for it. So the British thought so bad of Americans. The British thought that they're just a colony. They're just country bumpkins. We can ask for the finest materials, and they send us back garbage. George Washington was against a lot of that stuff, and then the taxes. These people did not care for black history. There's a story I put in my thesis. There's a story where James Madison and George Washington had a problem in Pennsylvania when the presidency was in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Philadelphia was a Quaker state, and they got rid of their slavery. They got rid of slaves in their state. But they didn't get rid of slaves for people that was traveling through, that was people that was visiting, or that people that was a part of government. But what they did was they said, hey, you have to register each slave that come into this country, come into this state. They can be here for 6 months. After 6 months, they become citizens. Well, they become free men. They can petition to become free men. What did George Washington and James Madison do? They did not want to lose their slaves. James Madison, the father of the Constitution, he did not want to lose his slaves. He had a problem. He was like, well, I've had this guy since I was a kid. I don't want to get rid of him because I'll lose money. I don't want to sell him in Pennsylvania because I will have to sell him into a denture servitude, and that's cheaper than selling him into slavery. So what did they do? A Supreme Court, a Solicitor General, I think, or Attorney General of the United States, he got with George Washington and said, this is what you do. You take your slaves and bring them into Philadelphia, and you have to register them. All right? Right before the 6-month time period, you let them leave the state, because you got to register when they leave the state. A week or two later, you bring them back. The 6 months start over. So that's what James Madison and George Washington did. They rotated their slaves in and out of Pennsylvania to keep their slaves. So don't tell me that the crossing of the Delaware was for black folk, because it wasn't. It was not. It has become for black folk because now we are considered Americans. But in the beginning, it was not. And this, so anyway, he continues. This goes on, so I don't want to go for too long. At the same time, there are both triumphs and tragedies that have been specific to the black experience. The beautiful resistance against government tyranny that occurred at the Boston Tea Party was largely spurred by the killing of a black U.S. Army soldier, Crispus Attucks. That was a lie by the British. That was a lie. The Boston Tea Party was not spurred by the death of Crispus Attucks. It was not. Those people could care less about Crispus Attucks. It's just that now, because Paul Revere put it in his Boston Massacre painting, drawing, it's only recently, in the last, 7,500 years or so, that people are starting to realize that Crispus Attucks was the first person to protest in Boston. Crispus Attucks was just a footnote in history for a number of years. It was not about Crispus Attucks. They did not say to themselves, because Crispus Attucks died, let's go to Boston and throw out the tea. No. They knew the tea was coming, so the Sons of Liberty went out and disguised themselves as another race of people and threw tea into the Boston Harbor. That had nothing. This is what people are talking about. Don't just teach history, teach history. And Dr. Ben Carson is not talking about history. He's saying his story, what he believes history is about. At the same time, let's see, wait. At the same time, there have been both triumphs and tragedies that we have been blah, 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 blah. Okay. Boston Tea Party, okay. Gospel, jazz, and blues are beautiful, world-unique musical forms that were born out of the black experience in America. Let us celebrate those and other such triumphs during this month. What is the black experience in America? What is the black experience in America? The black experience in America was the blues. It was the Delta blues. Go back to slavery and look at how the people moaned and sung to keep their spirits high. Follow the drinking gourd. The song Follow the Drinking Gourd was a song to the runaway slaves to follow the North Star. The North Star is a drinking gourd. So the humming and the moaning and the wailing of blues and gospel and jazz, that all came from the slave plantations. The slaves took it to church. The church took it to the blues and the Delta blues. Go back and look up Robert Johnson and how a lot of white rock and roll guys give credence to Robert Johnson. Go back and listen to Son House and all those guys from the Delta blues who took that wailing from the slave house and brought it to the blues house. So that's the black experience in America. That's the black experience. He keeps going, and okay, this is going to be over soon. Yet there are also tragedies that affect the black population more than other groups. The crime rate is significantly higher, as is the prevalence of fatherless homes, sexual STDs, and discipline issues at school. So he shits on black people at the same time. He says black history is about white people too. But if you want to talk about black people, let's talk about the crime rates. Let's talk about the fatherless homes. Let's talk about the STDs. And let's talk about issues in school. What that got to do with black history? This is why people this is why the black culture turned against Ben Carson. Ben Carson was celebrated amongst black people. Ben Carson is a part of black history. But it's crap like that, because let's talk about the crime rate. First of all, crime in America is crime in America, period. You can talk about black on black crime, but it's no different than white on white crime. It's no different than Asian on Asian crime. It's no different than Latino on Latino crime. Crime is crime, and where you commit crime is where your demographics are. So if you're in the heavily Latino community, it's gonna be heavily Latino on Latino crime. If you're in a black urban area, it's going to be majority black people living there. It's going to be black on black crime. If you're in a heavily populated white area, it's going to be white on white crime. Crime is crime. But no, let's talk about black crime. Fatherless homes. That's fatherless homes First of all, let's go to MTV in that 16 and pregnant crap. How many pregnant girls do you see on 16 and pregnant that are without a father? And then they celebrate and they glorify being a single mother that's 16, 17 years old. So, and then when you talk STDs are rampant across the country. Oh my God. Discipline issues at school. Who is shooting up schools? On top of that, there are problems not typically seen as racial issues, which disproportionately impact Black Americans. Inflation, specifically as gas prices and housing prices, is one such problem. High gas prices are like regressive taxation, with the working class having to pay an increasing share of a smaller income just to get to and fro. The rapid rise of housing prices is crowding Black Americans out of the housing market. It's not. See, he's trying to shit on Biden on this one. It's not about that is crowding Black people out. You got to look at redlining. You got to look at the 13th Amendment. You got to look at the high policed areas in this country, and you got to look at places in Missouri where majority 70 to 80% of the police's budget came from frivolous tickets, speeding tickets. If you got a $20 speeding ticket, it's hard for a person making less than $20,000 a year to pay a $20 speeding ticket. So now they got to decide whether or not they're going to pay the ticket or get the kids some diapers. So they miss out on paying that speeding ticket. So now they got a bench warrant, and that speeding ticket went to $50. So yeah. So Ben Carson just jacked that all up. Black History Month is about Black history. It's about celebrating Black culture, because we don't have that in America. We don't celebrate that in America. America as a collective don't do that. So that's what we're here for. That's what Black history is here for. Yeah, it's become mundane, and the older you get, the more you hear about the same olds. Dr. King and Malcolm X and Sojourner Truth and Booker T. Washington, George Washington Carver, and the Peanut. You hear about the same Black folk over and over and over again. But there are a lot of Black people that are making strides and that have made strides to make Black Americans American. So we need, and until this country, which I highly doubt is going to ever happen, but until this country actually starts to govern itself, being blind to the color issue, we're going to continually need a Black History Month. Now, for some people, you can debate what oh my God, what's his name? His face is in my head. Driving Miss Daisy. That's the guy. Oh my God, I can't remember his name. But he said in an interview that why would you relegate his history to just a month? And I agree. And you can debate that. But taking the time out to say, let's give honor to those Black people for the shoulders which we stand on. Because guess what? After Black History Month, you're not going to hear that much about Black people at all in school until the next Black History Month. And now they're trying to stop Black History Month because a lot of states, to include Florida and other states, they're trying to make laws that will outlaw people hurting white folks' feelings when discussing Black issues. And then you got them house people, you know what I want to say? You got them house people like Dr. Carson who just don't care. Who want to put white people in the talk of Black history. And nobody's saying that they can't be there. All we're saying is, let's give honor and respect to those Black people. We can discuss Abraham Lincoln and what he did later. We can discuss LBJ and what he did later. We can talk about all the white people that helped during the 60s and the bus boycotts in Montgomery, and we can talk about how the NAACP had white people on their staff and white people were helping. We can discuss that later. But for right now, for 28 days, and for every 4 years, 29 days, whenever we decide to get a leap year, for 28 days, let's just stop and honor those black people that fought, bled, and died. Who had their recipes, Jack Daniels, stolen from them. Let's just give honor to black people for 28 days without involving white people, without involving Latino people, without involving Asian people. Let's just give black people that small amount of respect for 1 month out of 12. Today is Monday. It's Valentine's Day. If you stayed this long, I appreciate it. Could care less about Valentine's Day. I'll holler at y'all later. I'm out. Y'all take care. All right. I'll see you on the next one.